Yo, what's up guys, Alf here, and today I'm going to be doing a video that's just additional gameplay of the Timeless Naya Natural Order Winota deck that I posted a guide on a few days ago. So I'm not going to explain how this deck works in this video because I've already got a deck guide video on this, so if you haven't seen that yet and you want an explanation of how the deck works and all the individual card choices and stuff like that, I'll have a link down to my deck guide video in the description if you want to check it out. Additionally, if you're an MTG Zone Premium member, my full article on this deck has just gone live today as well, and that has much more detail on the deck, as well as a full sideboard guide, how I changed the deck for best of one, and some extra tips and tricks to help you play that as well. So I'll have a link down to that in the description if you want to check that out as well. And I'll also have a link to the importable deck list if you like the look of the deck and you want to try it out. So in the deck guide video, I asked if people would be interested in seeing more gameplay for this deck, and a lot of people said they would be. So this video is basically just that, a bunch of extra gameplay that I recorded of me playing on the ladder so you guys can see it in action. If you've got any questions about the deck at all, definitely let me know in the comments. And also, as you're watching the gameplay, if you think there's any lines I missed or mistakes I made that I didn't pick up on, definitely let me know in the comments, because I love having this discussion and trying to, figure out how you can play the deck as optimally as possible. Either way, I hope you enjoy the gameplay, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Big up! Okay, so we're going second here. And yeah, no play on turn one, but I think I'm happy to keep this because we can go Colony Garden into Paradise Druid, and then we've got access to both Natural Order and Winota on turn 3. I imagine with this hand we'll probably go for Natural Order unless we draw something else here, because we can either go Natural Order into Galter, cheat Agent of Treachery, and Winota into play and steal whatever the opponent has. I think I'm more likely to go for Atraxa though, because then we can refuel our hand and then cast Winota the following turn. But we'll have to see what the opponent does, obviously. We don't know what they're on yet. And obviously, that could change depending on what we draw for the next couple turns as well. So we'll see what the opponent's on here. Okay, Sunken Citadel, so almost certainly going to be against Titan here, which should be a pretty good matchup. But just got to hope the opponent, well, if they don't have a Grazer or Cami this turn, we don't have to worry about a turn 3 Titan, which will be nice. And then we can get Paradise Druid down, and then even if they do get Titan down, having access to turn 3 Galter off the Natural Order here is pretty sick. Okay, so they're Sylvan Scrying, probably going to grab a Castle Gambrig if they don't have one already, I imagine. So I'm pretty confident about this spot now, right? The turn 3 Natural Order should hopefully help us race here. So I'm going to play the Temple Garden and then the Paradise Druid, and then we got a number of different options for next turn. I think I'm just going to go for Natural Order into Galter with this many creatures in hand, and then I think I'm probably going to Huntmaster, keep one of the Huntmasters in hand so that we can fetch another card. So I think it's better to sack the Paradise Druid here, because then when we go for Galter, we get to put the Winota into play, and then we can attack with the plant token to immediately get a Winota trigger. We also get to steal one of their lands with Agent of Treachery. Probably going to go for this Sunken Citadel in case they've got a Castle Gambrig in hand so they can't cast Titan next turn. Yeah, opponent just scoops it up, so yeah, not really surprised. So post-sideboard against Titan isn't really anything from the sideboard that we want in this matchup, to be honest. Our game plan's pretty good against theirs. We've got turn 3 Natural Order very, very consistently. And also, as we saw there, being able to go Winota into Agent of Treachery, either to cut them off lands but so that they can't cast the Titan, or once they've got Titan in place, stealing their Primeval Titan really slows down their ability to race as well. Obviously, if they do get a very fast Titan start, or you don't hit an Agent of Treachery, then Winota can be a little bit dicey in some spots, but you can also potentially hit Grizzled Huntmaster off Winota triggers, and then as long as you've got 3 mana available, including a white mana, you can replace one of the creatures in your hand with a Giant Killer to kill the Primeval Titan at instant speed. So we've got other options even if we don't hit Agent of Treachery. Okay, so I think we're going to keep this hand here. We go Colony Garden on turn 1. Unfortunately, we don't have access to turn 2 Grizzled Huntmaster. Like, this hand would be a lot better if this Paradise Druid was an Arboreal Grazer or a Cami of Bamboo Groves, but as long as the opponent doesn't have a very fast start here, I think we've got a reasonable shot with this hand, right? Because we can go Paradise Druid into Huntmaster to fetch Winota, and then cast Winota on turn 4. Okay, opponent does have the turn 1 Cami though, so... But it's tricky, you can't afford to mulligan too low, and Titan isn't always going to have the turn 3 Titan as well, so... I don't know, I think I'm pretty happy with this keep, because we still do have pretty much a guaranteed turn 4 Winota with 2 attack triggers. which is going to be good enough against the Titan deck a lot of the time. Just got to hope they don't have a natural order here. Oh, looks like they do. Yikes. Okay, that's going to be tricky then. If we had, like I said, if we had Grazer or Kami instead of the Paradise Druid, then we would be going for Winota this turn. Unfortunately, they are going to get a single attack with the Primeval Titan. Having said that, I still think we've got a shot this game. Because we can still go, like I said, Grizzled Huntmaster, get a Winota, and then we'll get, you know, at least 2 triggers next turn. Okay, Kami's interesting. Because we do have, you know, 4 mana this turn, so we can go fetch Huntmaster, Kami, and then next turn we get 3 Winota triggers. So if they don't have a follow-up to the Titan here, we've actually got a shot. Because, you know, with this many Winota triggers, we've actually got a good chance of hitting potentially 2 Agent of Treacheries. We'd probably need to get a little bit lucky to set that up, but okay, definitely going to bin the Grazer here. But yeah, if we can get 2 Agent of Treacheries, one stealing the Primeval Titan, one stealing the Westvale Abbey or the Field of the Dead, then I think we've got a good shot here. But if they have another Titan, another Natural Order, or they're holding on to Crater Hoof, then this could definitely be tricky. So they're going to get a Field of the Dead and another land here. It'd be interesting to see what they get. Almost certainly going to be a Colony Garden if they've got another Natural Order. Oh, interesting. They go for Blast Zone. Okay. So definitely don't have a Natural Order, which is a good sign. Not going to block here, obviously. So as long as they don't have a crazy follow-up here, I think we've got a chance. Oh, yikes. They had the second Titan. Okay, so that's kind of rough. Even with 2 Agent of Treacheries, this is going to be tricky to win now. I think had they not had that second Titan, we've got a really good shot of winning. Now, I think our only chance is if we hit like 3 Agent of Treacheries. Okay, and another land. I mean, even with multiple Agent of Treacheries, they've probably got too much power and play here. But I'll attack anyway and see what we find. Get to hold the Grizzled Huntmaster back as a blocker, obviously. Oh, yikes. Okay, whiffed off the first one, so almost certainly going to lose here, I think. So, we get the Huntmaster, replace the Grazer. I mean, I don't think it really matters, to be honest. Get Haywire Might as a blocker that gains life. But yeah, we're just dead on board. But I want to see if we would get an Agent of Treachery off the last trigger here. No, okay, we didn't find one. So, going to game 3... Unfortunately, we did have to keep a slightly slower hand there. And I mean, that was a pretty good sign that we were on the draw with a slightly slower hand and we still had a chance. You know, they needed to have Natural Order into a second Titan. If they didn't have that second Titan, I mean, to be fair, we did whiff on finding an Agent of Treachery there, but, you know, we were relatively close had they not had the second Titan there. And that was definitely a slower hand from us. I think an average, you know, on average, our draws are faster than that. And on the play, I'm pretty optimistic. You know, this matchup has definitely felt pretty good overall because they don't really have good counterplay to what we're doing at all. They don't really have much interaction outside of the Archdruid's Charm. Archdruid's Charm. So you're going to have to mull this one, I think. Don't have any top ends. This is definitely a little bit more sketchy, but with double Once Upon a Time, I think I can keep this. Right, hopefully find a Winota off the Once Upon a Time, or maybe like a Grizzled Huntmaster or something. So I do need some help off the top, but we do have the early ramp, and Once Upon a Time is definitely good at digging for our top end as well. You know, happy to see a Huntmaster or a Winota here. Yikes. So it's definitely between the Wooded Foothills and the Boromir here. The Wooded Foothills is so that we can keep hitting lands till our 4th, and the Boromir is so that if we draw Grizzled Huntmaster, or we find Grizzled Huntmaster off the Once Upon a Time, then we have a creature that we can use to find the Winota. So I'm going to grab the Boromir here because we can use our fetch to grab a Lush Portico if we wanted to go for Once Upon a Time next turn. Okay, Colony Garden's not a bad draw here. So I think this turn is either going to be Colony Garden Once Upon a Time or just go for Boromir here. And I think I'm going to lead on Once Upon a Time just to see what we hit. Okay, we found a Winota. Perfect. So that's saved our draw here completely. So now we can attack with the Kami, crack, go for a turn 3 Winota with 2 triggers. So Once Upon a Time putting in work here. Okay, they do have the Kami, so still online for a potential turn 3 Titan from the opponent, but we get 2 Winota triggers before they can even get Titan online here, which is huge. So just going to crack here, probably grab a basic, although I don't think it really matters in this matchup. And then we get 2 Winota triggers straight away. So even if they do have a Titan here, I think it's going to be tricky for them to recover, because as long as we don't whiff... Yeah, okay, we found an Agent of Treachery. Going to take the Sunken Citadel just in case they got Garen Brig into Titan here. And then another Winota. I think we're happy to put that in play just to get an extra 4 damage through here. So they do get to eat one of our non-humans, but again, they're back down to 2 lands here, so even if they have, you know, another Citadel into Garen Brig, they have to wait another turn before going for either Natural Order or Titan here. And we get another trigger off the Winota next turn. Like I said, Titan doesn't really have any interaction unless they've boarded in Get Lost against us, which they could well do. You know, Get Lost is a reasonable card against us. So they do potentially have Titan again next turn, but... You know, we get another Winota trigger here. We get to attack with all 3 creatures. We get a Boromir in play to defend our board. Oh, wow. Whiffing is not great here. So they can potentially go for Titan next turn, but we do get to go Grazer into Colony Garden here, which does mean that we have 3 Winota triggers going into next turn. So even if they do have land into Primeval Titan, I'm pretty sure we're going to win next turn, unless we get super unlucky off the Winota hits. Okay, they have Natural Order. Sacking the Kami makes sense. See if they've also got a land to trigger the Field of the Dead. But again, I don't think it should matter. As long as we don't get insanely unlucky with Winota here. Like, if all the humans are in the bottom of our deck, then we should just be good to win. Even if we don't hit many Agent of Treacheries. Because they've only got 2 blockers here, right? So we're already getting in for at least 3 damage. Okay, they are on Radiant Fountain though, so that does... increase the damage we need to hit slightly more, but, you know, odds are we're going to win this turn. So 3 Winota triggers. Okay, Agent of Treachery is still the Primeval Titan. That's absolutely huge. Yeah, okay, opponent just scoops up. So we got there, nice. Okay, so going first here. And yeah, this hand looks pretty reasonable, right? We can go Kami into Colony Garden. Unfortunately, with the current land setup, we can't get... we can't cast Grizzled Huntmaster on turn 2. But we can still go, you know, just cast another Colony Garden, or play another Colony Garden, get another token, and then as long as we find another land off the top, we can potentially go Natural Order, or maybe just go Grizzled Huntmaster, fetch a land, or, you know, potentially fetch a Winota if we find a red land. So a lot of good options here. Obviously, it depends on what we draw off the top, but... another Agent of Treachery. I mean, that does make Galta off this Natural Order a lot better, but not exactly what we were hoping to hit, right? I guess also we can, if we are against Show and Tell, this could also be pretty nice, because we could use the Grizzled Huntmaster to replace one Agent of Treachery, and then still have a backup one here to put into play. But still not sure what we're up against here. You know, Watery Grave into Brainstorm could be a number of things. Going to set stops during the opponent's turn here just to bluff having Once Upon a Time, or potentially Boseiju here as well. You know, just make the opponent think about what I could potentially have. But yeah, still not sure what they're on. If they're on blue-black control, I think they'd likely be on Lurrus. Okay, so they're on Sultai, so almost certainly going to be against Show and Tell here, if I had to guess. Not really many other Sultai decks about. So definitely don't want to exile any more Agent of Treacheries from the deck, because... sorry, just trying to think about it. I think I'm just going to grab a land here so that we can go for Natural Order next turn. But yeah, definitely want to keep the Agent of Treacheries in the deck so that Winota is still, you know, good if we find that. It is obviously kind of dicey here if the opponent goes Show and Tell into Omniscience into Born Upon a Wind, but... You know, I think we're applying enough pressure here where the opponent might be forced to just go for it without having to dig a little bit more. If they don't have it, then we can just go for Natural Order next turn anyway, which on this board state we could just go for Craterhoof and win. But we do have to be wary of counterspells here, obviously. I mean, having said that, most of the Show and Tell decks, especially the Sultai variants that I've seen, aren't running counterspells. So I think even if the opponent passes with mana up here, I mean, it depends on what we draw, obviously, but... I would be kind of tempted to just jam the Natural Order anyway. Okay, they tap out for Assemble the Team. They could still have Spell Pierce, which, to be honest, is the counter spell I think these decks are most likely to run. So if they do shock in a blue land, Okay, they do play the island, but I think at this point I just have to go for the natural order. We're not gaining anything from waiting. And like I said, they don't run too many counter spells anyway. So I think our best, by far away our best option to try and win the game there is to just go for the natural order. And they don't have the spell pierce, thankfully. So managed to get their game one. Post sideboard, similar sideboarding to the past. Going to bring in the Deafening Silence and just cut the Galta here. So Galta would have been useful that last game with a double Agent of Treachery draw, but you typically want to be holding on to stuff like your Agent of Treachery for the show and tell turns. So Galta isn't actually that impactful. There are very few times, especially post sideboard, where I would want to use natural orders to get Galta. But yeah, this matchup has definitely felt pretty good to me so far. Especially with the addition of Deafening Silence, because the really nice thing about Deafening Silence is if you can get that down, then Agent of Treachery is a really solid answer to Omniscience, because they then can't cast any other non-creature spells. Okay, speaking of which, that's a sick draw. I think there's still a chance that I'll use the Grizzled Huntmaster in order to get a Boromir. But the opponent hasn't seen Agent of Treachery from us, right? I think all they saw last game was, Grizzled Huntmaster, Colony Garden, and Natural Order. So here trying to scry towards a land so that we, Once Upon a Time obviously does help us find a land potentially, but I want to be able to tap out for Paradise Druid this turn and then hopefully just draw a land off the top for our next turn. So going to run out of Paradise Druid here, and then even if we do miss a land for the next turn, we can potentially go Huntmaster, grab a land like we did last game, right? Grab the Skyclave Cleric, and then, have access to Natural Order next turn. But if we do find an untapped land, we can potentially go for Natural Order. I mean, again, it depends on whether they have counter spells or not here, though. I think they're more likely to have brought them in if they have them in the sideboard after last game, potentially. But, we'll have to see. It's always tricky on ladder because you don't know what builds the opponent's on, especially in a deck like Show and Tell where people are trying out a bunch of stuff right now. There isn't really like a very stock build. Wait, they got Hallowed Fountain as well. Interesting. So they 4-color potentially. So we draw a Kami, which can get us a land. Well, we can channel it to get 2 lands. I think I'm just going to go for the Huntmaster here, though, because it's just more, it's a bigger body in place that applies more pressure. And we don't really need the 5th land here, right? We only really need the 4th. Oh, sorry. Actually, I guess if they kill Paradise Druid, we might need the extra land here. But with Paradise Druid, we can still just go for Natural Order next turn. So if they have like swords for the Paradise Druid here, then that might punish us for not going for the Kami line here. But I think just getting an extra creature in play is probably better here. So opponent goes for Brainstorm again. They're just digging. If they do go for Show and Tell, we've obviously got the Agent of Treachery here. Again, gotta hope they don't have the Born Upon a Wind. I guess actually, maybe I'm supposed to Huntmaster for a Boromir there. Maybe that was a little bit greedy going for the Skyclave Cleric. But then if we miss a land off the top, then we're not really, doing our proactive game plan at all. So tricky to say. So here, I think I was gonna say I'm gonna go for Natural Order main phase 2, but thinking about it, I think it's too risky when the opponent's holding 8 for mana. So that was a mistake on my part. If I was gonna go for the Huntmaster, I obviously should have attacked with the Paradise Druid here. Although having said that, if they do kill the Paradise Druid, then they cut us off the 4th mana for the Natural Order. So maybe that wasn't a mistake, but I should have played more slowly and considered my plays there. I think now I'm going to play it safe and just go for the Boromir, right? Because if they do have Show and Tell here, I want to be able to put the Boromir into play. And, even if they go Show and Tell into Atraxa, they would need to hit untap blue land into Spell Pierce to shut us off Natural Order, and if they don't, then we can just go Natural Order into Galta. We've cut the Galta from the deck, but we could still go. We can just go Natural Order into Crater Hoof, force them to block with the Atraxa, and then that's still good. So Potentially made a mistake not attacking with the Paradise Druid there, but again, if they have removal like a Swords to Plowshares or a Fatal Push, they could kill the Paradise Druid, cut us off the 4th land, and then we can't cast Natural Order. But missing out on the 2 damage, especially against a deck like Show and Tell that typically doesn't run too much spot removal, I think is probably a mistake. I mean, it was definitely a mistake of me to not consider what I wanted to go for main phase 2, if that makes sense, right? And I think it was probably correct not going for the Natural Order because, you know, with them just holding mana open, I think there is a reasonable chance they've got a Spell Pierce or a Counter Spell here. And we're pretty insulated against Show and Tell anyway, right? I think it's more important to just keep pressure on the board, close the game out, force them to go for a Show and Tell, and then we've got 2 ways to just shut it off immediately. Yeah, okay, opponent just passes back, so again, I just have a feeling they must have counter spells here. Unless they have all instant speed cantrips, which they could very well do. I think that's a pretty decent way to build Show and Tell, because then you can dig for Born Upon a Wind after the Omniscience comes down. So here the risk with going for Boromir is if they have a counter spell, they counter this, and then if they have Show and Tell into Omniscience into Born Upon a Wind, we're in trouble. But we still have the Agent of Treachery as a backup here. So I think I'm just going to make use of my mana and get it into play. Okay, maybe they don't have a maybe they have a Spell Pierce. That's my kind of read on the situation. Or like I said, they could just have a bunch of instant speed cantrips, which also makes sense. I guess they also don't have any green or black mana though, but they've used a fetch land already. I'm kind of confused because the opponent did cast Assemble game 1, right? I have played a lot of Show and Tell matches in a row here, so maybe I'm getting confused between games, but yeah, I'm kind of surprised they didn't fetch for one of the other colours. But yeah, that also might be why they just passed back without doing anything. But I'm pretty sure they fetched for a basic, which is strange. Maybe they just don't have any green or black cards in hand though. By the way, again, I still feel pretty good about this spot. Now we've got a Boromir in play. If they do Show and Tell into Omniscience... Okay, there's a black land into Demonic Shooter. But yeah, if they do Show and Tell into Omniscience, we can just steal the Omniscience guaranteed here, because we can... the Boromir will counter anything they try and cast off the Omniscience. So if they do go Show and Tell, we get Agent of Treachery. Now we get to steal the Omniscience, so this should just be game. Right, anything they try and cast will just get countered. Oh, okay. With the exception of Hullbreaker Horror. Okay. That's I'm pretty sure that's one of the only cards that they can cast in this spot. And I mean, if they can chain together a bunch of spells here, they can cast another spell. It gets countered by the Boromir, but they can bounce the Boromir with the Hullbreaker Horror. But they would need to have a bunch of other instant speed cards before we steal the Omniscience here. So they do potentially have an out as a Boromir plus Agent of Treachery here, which is pretty impressive. They do go, okay, so they go for Dig Through Time, and they bounce the Boromir, so that will enable them to... Oh, they bounce the Agent. That has to be a mistake, right? Why would they bounce the Agent? Okay, they go for Impulse. They bounce the Boromir now. So they basically just missed out on Impulse, right? They would have got Impulse had they bounced the Boromir initially. Ah, okay, that's all they had. I mean, to be if they'd cast Impulse... okay, we'll grab the Grey Tape. Yeah, if they'd cast Impulse, then used the Hullbreaker to bounce the Boromir, then they would have got Dig Through Time and could have potentially won there. But they definitely missequenced them, I think. But either way, we can go for Boromir into Crazy Hoof and just close the game out here. So yeah, even with the Dig Through Time, I think the opponent would need to get reasonably lucky to win from that point, but ended up getting there anyway, so we got there nice. Okay, so going second tier. And I think I can keep this. You know, obviously it's a little bit slower. I would much prefer to have an Arboreal Grazer or Cami here, but we do have Once Upon a Time to try and dig towards one, which is pretty nice. Okay, channel it into Mishra's Warble, so could be a number of decks here. Okay, Spy Bluff Canal, interesting. Again, still not exactly sure what the opponent's on, because there's a lot of different variants. I've seen Grixis, seen Temur, seen Sultai, so I have to see what the opponent's on. So we'll take a draw step and then go for Once Upon a Time here. Okay, Natural Order's pretty good. Okay, sweet, we found the Cami. So I think I'm just going to jam that, right? Even if we don't find the 4th land on curve, we have Paradise Druid that we can cast, and we can also fetch Lush Portigo with the Windswept Heath here, potentially, to help us try and dig towards the extra land. But yeah, finding that acceleration on turn 1 is huge. Now, the opponent does know that we have Natural Order, so they could proactively go after our green creatures, but the nice thing about Paradise Druid is it's basically guaranteed to resolve Natural Order, assuming the opponent doesn't have counter spells, which... You know, they very well could have Spell Pierce, but if they do just have a bunch of lightning bolts and stuff like that, the Paradise Druid will survive. Or the Natural Order will resolve, rather. Wow, main deck Molten Impact's interesting. Definitely a good card when there's a bunch of small creatures in the format. Definitely going to run out the Paradise Druid, because the really nice thing about Hexproof here is, if the opponent ends up casting another instant or sorcery... Wow, which they just straight away do. They just waste the Molten Impact excess damage here, which I'm very happy to see. Now, unfortunately, the opponent does know that we have the Natural Order here, so if they do have Spell Pierce, I think there's a very good chance that, they'll just hold it up because they know that we have the Natural Order. But, I mean, we'll see what we draw. I'm going to crack the Windswept Heath and go for the Lush Portico here. Honestly, I think... Especially game 1 where... Oh, wow. Okay, I'm just going to go for the Natural Order here and hope they don't have it. Right, we don't know how many Spell Pierces they're running. We don't even know if they're on Spell Pierce necessarily. And if this resolves, we just win the game on the spot, I'm pretty sure. Yikes. Okay, they had it, unfortunately. So what I was going to do there is Paradise Druid into Galta, put a Winota and an Atraxa into play, and I think that just wins us the game on the spot. The alternative there is to bin the Atraxa and hope to draw a 4th land and go for Winota, but... Then if they have Unholy Heat, we're in real trouble, which I think they're, as likely to have Unholy Heat as they are Spell Pierce, if not slightly more, because I think they're more likely to have 4 Unholy Heat and maybe like 2 or 3 Spell Pierce, if I had to guess. So now we're in trouble. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult. I think this game basically just came down to, did they have the Spell Pierce for the Natural Order or not? And again, I don't think it really benefits us to wait any longer on it either, because the opponent has so many ways to dig off the Channeler. I'm sure they're running cantrips, and we've already seen Iteration as well. So the longer the game goes on, the more likely they are to dig towards the Spell Pierce. So I still think it was correct to just jam the Natural Order there. Okay, they did have Unholy Heat, so obviously we don't know if they drew that the last turn, but had we binned the Atraxa, which makes Natural Order worse, then and even found the 4th land, if we go for Winota and they just use the sorry, I'm just trying to think, because the opponent had lethal with Den of the Bugbear there, so the opponent potentially missed lethal. I don't think it would really matter. Okay, they had Bolt anyway. But yeah, I think Winota would have been riskier there. So that was kind of rough. Just came down to whether the opponent had the Spell Pierce or not that game. Post-sideboard, I think this is a matchup where I probably want the Voice of Resurgence. We haven't seen actual counterspell, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did have it. Having said that, I'm not sure I want to bring in the full 4 copies, because they could very well just be on Spell Pierce here. So I'm going to bring in the 3. I want to keep Galta in here. The only other card I'm thinking about maybe cutting there is Boromir, potentially. For the 4th copy of Voice of Resurgence, but we want our Winota hits to be consistent here, right? I think just having a high density of them is important. So unfortunately can't keep a... Oh, well, I can say can't keep a 1-lander, can't keep a no-lander, even with 2 Once Upon a Time. So I'm going to have to go down to 5, which is rough here, obviously. Get to put back an Atraxa, though, which is kind of a free mull, because we want that back in the deck anyway. And then we can go Grazer, and we still have the Winota here. And to be honest, Winota is a good way to undo a mulligan. And if they are relying on red damage-based removals to kill the Winota, they would need to get Delirium online very fast to cut us off it. So this is a spot where I'm so happy to have Lush Portico in the deck. Having said that, if they have a Bolt for this Grazer, this hand is kind of falls apart, because we need this Grazer here for both Natural Order and Winota. Okay, fetches a Ketria Triome. So no Bolt this turn, which I'm pretty happy to see. So definitely going to be fetching the Lush Portico here. Now it is a bit of a concern they're just not doing anything here. So yeah, we're looking for an untapped 4th land here, obviously. Okay, definitely going to bin the Huntmaster. Okay, there's the land. So I think I'm going to go for Winota first here. Because if we go for Natural Order and they have a counterspell, we lose the Grazer. Obviously here they can kill the Grazer, but if they have a counterspell for Winota, okay, the Aether Gust, that's fine. Then at least we still have the creature here for next turn. Because if we go for Natural Order and they counter, Winota does nothing. Whereas if we go for Winota and they counter, we still have the green creature to potentially follow up with the Natural Order next turn. Okay, so they bauble themselves. Interesting. See what they follow up with. Why do they tap out here? They tap out for Tarmogoyf. I guess they just don't know about the Natural Order. So here I'm 100% jamming the Natural Order. Get a Traxxas, refuel, undo this mulligan to 5. And then, okay, we hit 4, which is huge. So, what do we want here? We're definitely going to grab the Kami because that's an enchantment. Then, we're obviously going to grab Once Upon a Time. I think we'll grab... I don't believe we've played a land for the turn, so I think I'm just going to grab the Colony Garden here, right? Get an extra non-human in play for the Winota next turn. And then we've got Voice of Resurgence for the counter spells. You know, if we draw an untapped land, we can go Voice into Winota, punish them if they've got another Aether Gust or counter spell. Okay, there's Channeler. And another Goyf. Okay, so no attacks from the opponent this turn, which is going to be nice. So, going to lead on the Winota here. Attack him with both and see what we hit. Get 2 Winota triggers. Okay, Agent of Treachery 6, and now we get to steal one of the Goyfs. And then... don't want to put this other Winota in play. Maybe we... actually, no, because they just block it with the Tarmogoyf. Actually, maybe I'm supposed to put the Winota into play there, thinking about it, because then they don't get to freely just block the plant token. So yeah, that was a mistake. I should have also put that Winota into play, because it would have either forced an extra 4 damage through, or if they'd chosen to block the Winota, then we either get in for an extra 2 points of damage with the agent, or the plant token survives and we get another Winota trigger next turn. Okay, so going for Unholy Heat, trying to blind hit Delirium here, which is, you know, probably their only line in this spot. Okay, they don't hit it off that. Okay, do they have another burn spell? Okay, opponent just whiffed on Delirium there, so this is just game over, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so thankfully my mistake there didn't end up mattering, so going to a game 3 here. Which that was a nice one for us. Getting to undo a mulligan to 5 was pretty big. So since we've seen Aether Gust, I think I'm going to bring in the Voice here, and then... not sure what the best cut is, to be honest. Maybe we don't need the 4th Voice, thinking about it, because like the only 2 cuts I could really consider here are Galter, which I could see coming up if we resolve Natural Order and we draw Agent of Treacheries or Atraxas. So I kind of want to have access to that, especially because it's a toolbox option. And then the only other card that I'm really considering cutting is the Boromir. But like I said, it's very important that Winota hits are consistent here, because the opponent is, you know, in a lot of ways playing a tempo deck. So us whiffing on Winota can make a really big difference, especially in spots where, you know, we've only got 1 or 2 non-humans and we want to be able to protect them from burn spells and the opponent blocking them as well. Spots like that, Boromir, the sacrifice ability to give our board Indestructible was actually very relevant. So being on the draw here in game 3 is obviously going to be a little bit tougher, but, you know, we managed to win that one on a multi 5, so as long as we have a decent 6 or 7, I think we've got a pretty good shot here. I'm going to have to mull again, which is a little bit annoying. You know, all these one-landers are pretty rough. Okay, this we can keep, though. And then I think we have to put back the Atraxa here, right? Agent of Treachery is not as bad to have in hand because we can cheat it into play off Galter. So, I mean, obviously have to see what we draw off the top, but definitely need to dig for a land off Once Upon a Time if we don't find one for our draw step. Okay, so opponent has channel it into Bauble again. Not a bad start. Oh, interesting. They're on Jarsil. Okay. That's good to know. So they bauble us. See what we draw for the turn. Okay, we find another land, so would potentially be interested in grabbing something like a Winota or a Grizzled Huntmaster here. I think we have to go for the Huntmaster. You know, obviously, it's going to be kind of rough if we don't find an extra land off the top, because we don't have a fetch here, so we can't grab the Lush Portico to try and dig towards one, but Huntmaster is pretty nice here, because it can hopefully help us find Winota, or, you know, whatever else we want in this spot. I guess the other nice thing about not boarding in the full 4 Voice of Resurgence is that we can also potentially fetch it off the Huntmaster, which is something I didn't really think about when I was sideboarding, so that's something I can consider, you know, in matchups where I'm struggling to find room for the Voice. Being able to dig for one off Huntmaster seems pretty appealing. Well, in certain spots anyway. Because this is kind of an awkward spot with Winota where if they kill the Kami, which they very well might do because they know that we're on natural order, we then don't have any... Molten Impact's pretty rough here, because if we go for the Huntmaster, they have that excess 3 damage off the Molten Impact. Okay, we find a Voice of Resurgence, so... This is a tricky spot. Because we could go for the Voice, it's likely to die straight away. We go for the Huntmaster, it's likely to die straight away. I don't think we can afford to play nothing. I think we have to sacrifice whatever creature we play this turn. So I think I'm going to go for Huntmaster here, and then... I don't know what the best card to search is. I think we're just going to go for Winota. Now that we've drawn a Voice of Resurgence, you know, to recover from this... Well... to recover from our early non-humans dying, I think we just have to go for Winota. Oh, wow, interesting. Okay, so they don't have a way to trigger the Molten Impact unless they have one at instant speed here. Wow, I'd be very happy if they blocked. Maybe they're trying to cut us off natural order targets, but that is very good for us to see. So here, I'm going to play the Voice of Resurgence, because that one I don't mind if it dies to the Molten Impact. And we obviously want to get a non-human in play before we go for Winota here. So even if they kill the Voice here, we can still go for Winota, attack, get a trigger off the token it leaves behind. But we are under a lot of pressure here, especially from the Flying Dragon's Rage channelers. So obviously going to grab a red land here. And then going to jam a Winota. Okay, it doesn't look like I have an Unholy Heat here, which is absolutely huge. Wow, Agent of Treachery is a big one. So I am very worried about these Dragon's Rage channelers with flying, but with this 3 damage on the stack, I think we have to take the Jar Seal, because even, you know, them being able to go Molten Impact, get the 3 excess damage, and then kill Winota is really bad for us. And from how they've played, it doesn't look like having another instant or sorcery. So if we get lucky and they don't draw one off the top, we're not actually in a bad... Well, I mean, I'm still worried about these Dragon's Rage channelers for sure, but I don't think we can afford to steal a channeler there, because like I said, they can go Jar Seal, flashback the Molten Impact, kill the Winota, kill the Dragon's Rage channeler or Agent of Treachery. We do go down to 4 though. Main phase 2 Jar Seal and another channeler. Okay, so we basically need to find Huntmaster here. If we can find Huntmaster, we can get Remorseful Cleric, exile their graveyard, and just completely shut off all of the Dragon's Rage channelers here. Okay, Crater Hoof, obviously not a good draw here, but if we can find a Huntmaster, that's a good target to replace. So we've got Once Upon a Time and Voice of Resurgence. We've got quite a few looks for a Grizzled Huntmaster here. If we can find a Huntmaster, I think we win. So we can go Once Upon a Time off the Jar Seal here to try and find Huntmaster. I don't think Voice of Resurgence really does anything to save us at this point, right? The other thing with the Agent of Treachery is both Jar Seal and the DRCs are humans, so that wouldn't give us an extra Winota trigger. Okay, yikes. Didn't find the Huntmaster, so we basically need to find a Huntmaster off this attack here. And I don't think we can really afford to attack in with anything other than the token. So we need to hit Huntmaster here, get Remorseful Cleric, and then just exile the opponent's graveyard. Oh, yikes. Didn't find it, so I think that's just game, right? We do have the Grazer as a reach blocker here, so that can eat up one of the attacks, but, you know, we're still taking 6 in the air. They've got... I mean, Jar Seal doesn't have... They don't have a 1-mana instant or sorcery, but that was a really close game, right? If we find the Huntmaster here, we just exile the Crater Hoof, play the Remorseful Cleric, exile their graveyard, cut them off both Jar Seal and Delirium, and then we just attack on the ground next turn. So this was a super close game, though, and I do think if we hit the Huntmaster there, we're very, very likely to win. So we can play it out. I mean, actually, no, they're forced to attack with the channelers, so we just, there's no way they're not going to attack with everything here. So yeah, we can block with the Grazer, but so that one was really close. Just came down to not finding a Huntmaster at the end there. Shame. Good game though. Okay, so going first here, and I can't keep a no-lander, unfortunately. Definitely can keep this one though, right? Turn 1 Cammy into turn 2 Huntmaster, hopefully into turn 3 Winota is pretty sick, and definitely going to put back the second Cammy here. Paradise Druid is generally much better as the second piece of ramp. And we get to put Lush Portico into play here, so I do want to play around Blood Moon if possible, but I think I'm better off fetching a basic Plains here, because even if the opponent's on a Blood Moon deck, we can get we got basic Forest on the top anyway, sick. But yeah, we can get basic Plains, or we're guaranteed to resolve Huntmaster next turn anyway, so even if the opponent has turn 1 Deathrite Shaman into turn 2 Blood Moon, we're still going to resolve the Huntmaster beforehand. If they did have turn 1 Deathrite Shaman into turn 2 Blood Moon, we would rather have the basic Plains in play here, so that we're obviously going to fetch Winota. So if the opponent does play Blood Moon, we then have the white mana available to play the Winota, which is why I wanted to hold on to the Flooded Strand here. But it doesn't end up mattering because they don't have the turn 1 Deathrite Shaman, so even if they have the Blood Moon, they're not going to be able to cast it before turn 3 here. So definitely going to fetch the Winota here. Hopefully the Cammy survives, which I think, it should do. The opponent doesn't necessarily know that we're on Winota here, and if they do have something like a Fatal Push, I think they're much more likely to crack a fetch, kill the Huntmaster here, which is obviously, ideal for us. Okay, so they grab a basic and no Fatal Push. I'm pretty sure if they had Fatal Push, they would have cast it there. So I'm pretty sure they don't have Fatal Push, or they would have just used it there to be mana efficient and cut us off a creature. Interestingly, they fetched a basic there, so they could potentially be on mono black, or, okay, more likely they have a Blood Moon here if I had to guess. So Dragon Skull Summit, they must be on Rakdos Midrange if I had to guess. But either way, we can resolve Winota here. They don't have a way to trigger Delirium, so we get at least one Winota trigger here, which is pretty huge. Okay, we hit an Agent of Treachery. That's massive. Definitely still the Deathrite Shaman, not only to cut them off mana, but also that makes the Cammy survive, which is an extra non-human to trigger Winota next turn. But yeah, I think we should be good here, right? There's very little they could have to help them stabilize. They would need, like, a sweeper here, but, I'd be very, very surprised if Rakdos, which is what I assume they're on from the Dragon Skull Summit, is running main deck sweepers. Obviously, we could have taken a land there, but there's a bunch of fetches in the graveyard, so Deathrite Shaman essentially acts as a land in spots like this. So here, I have to assume they're just on regular Rakdos. Plus, Dragon Skull Summit I've seen in, like, Mistmin's lists of Rakdos midrange, so that's kind of my instinct that they're probably on that. So if they are on that particular list, I believe that they were running Dark Ritual, One Ring, and potentially Shieldred as well, so I definitely need to be wary of that. But I mean, I found this matchup to be pretty good so far. We just need to be careful to play around Blood Moon, which I assume they will probably be having in high numbers, because we are a 3-color deck, but in a lot of ways, we're basically a very base green deck, splashing white for Boromir and Winota, and splashing red just for Winota, so we can afford to fetch basics pretty aggressively in these sorts of matchups, because we don't need the off colours that often, right? We can do pretty well just off green, and we obviously do have access to the basic Plains as well that enables us to cast Boromir and Winota. So that's the main thing I'm going to be wary of in the first few turns. I want to try and fetch around Blood Moon if I can. Okay, speaking of which, we've got a basic and Cammy here, so this is potentially access to 3 basic forests if we use this, the second Cammy here to channel. I mean, having said that, now that we've got 3 natural orders, there's a chance that we might need to run this second Cammy out as a creature, but especially if we don't draw the 4th land here, I think we're probably very incentivized to channel the Cammy. I mean, to be honest, the opponent doesn't know about natural order, but they do know about Winota, and it does, require the same setup. So I think there's a reasonable chance they might just kill the Cammy anyway to cut us off Winota. Oh, yeah, they've got Bowmasters to take out the Cammy, so I think this next draw step is going to heavily dictate what we go for here. Wow, okay. Bowmasters and Tutor in the same turn. Pretty good turn from the opponent there. for a turn 2. Obviously, that's pretty sick. So yeah, if we draw a land, then I think we're going to go for Kami just so we have a green creature in play for natural order. If we don't, then I think we have to channel the Kami. Wow, okay, we draw a Grazer. This is interesting. So I'm definitely going to run out the Grazer. And I think I'm just going to run out the Kami here, honestly. And just hope to river land off the top. I think that's my best chances of winning from this spot. Like I said, I was tempted to just channel the Kami, but with 3 natural orders in hand, I really want to just go for it. You know, the longer we wait, the less likely we are to be able to pull it off, I think. Okay, maybe we're getting punished for it, because now we drew the Huntmaster, which would have really benefited us for holding on to the Grazer, so we could have potentially, you know, channeled the Kami, guaranteed the 4th land, cast the Grazer, you know, this turn, and then, I don't know, it's close. I think I prefer the line I went for. It definitely is more high risk, but... Okay, we found a line off the top, perfect, and I don't think Rakdos has a good way to stop natural order, really, you know, especially when we've already got 3 creatures in play, so I think we probably go for a Traxxas here, and I'm going to sack the Kami just so that, because, you know, Kami is the most vulnerable to more different interaction, like obviously Bowmasters is the main one, so getting a Traxxas in play, which is pretty huge. Get another Colony Garden, which is massive with these natural orders in hand, and then I think we just go for Boromir once upon a time. But yeah, now we're in a very good spot. Obviously, we've got a Traxxas. I think I'm pretty happy to attack with the Huntmaster here, because they could obviously have, you know, something like a Heartless Act to kill the Traxxas, but if they don't, then they're not able to attack here. So I'm just going to attack, put them on the back foot. You know, if they want to block, they have to, you know, if they want to trade anyway, they have to block with the Fable token, which cuts them off mana. And I think their only real way out of this is to assemble the One Ring plus Shieldred or something like that. So, you know, cutting them off mana sources seems pretty important here. I mean, having said that, there's maybe an argument to not attack with the Huntmaster if we're going to go for Craterhoof next turn. So maybe that was a slight mistake. I'm not 100% sure. Because actually, yeah, I imagine Craterhoof is the next target to go off natural order, because Galta cheats in Boromir and gets a 12/12 in play, which isn't too bad, so maybe I'm supposed to hold back the Huntmaster there, actually. Because that, you know, an extra creature in play going into a Craterhoof turn makes so much difference, so that was maybe a mistake on my part, but I think we're so far ahead. Even if Craterhoof isn't lethal, you know, it forces them to chump with everything, and like I said, our backup here is still pretty good. Get a 12/12 in play, and then get a Boromir in play. But I think there's still a good chance that Craterhoof is just lethal here anyway, right? I mean, they've got the Den as a blocker. So yeah, I think on reflection, it probably was better to not attack with the Huntmaster there, because we did, you know, if I'd stopped to think, we were pretty confident that we would have gone for the Craterhoof this turn. Wow, they're not blocking with the Den. So they could have survived if they blocked with the Den, but I think there's no real way for them to recover from this anyway. So we got there, nice. Okay, so we're going second here. And, I mean, this hand is pretty sketchy. We'd need to find something like a Winota or a Grizzled Huntmaster off the Once Upon a Time, but I think it's still a consideration. I mean, I think we can probably do better on a 6, so I'm probably going to mulligan this, but I actually think it's pretty close. I could see an argument to keeping it, but it's very borderline. Okay, on a 6, definitely happy to keep this one, right? We can put a Boromir back, and then, as long as the opponent's not on a counterspell deck, we're basically guaranteed a turn 3 natural order here because of the Paradise Druid. Obviously, they could have discard spells as well, which would be not ideal considering we've mulled to 6, and they can obviously take the natural order, which does leave us a little bit out of gas, but we do have a lot of good draws, right? Grizzled Huntmaster allows us to cash in this Boromir for a Winota, potentially. So Deathrite Shaman Gigantha is kind of scary because that could be a Blood Moon deck, so there's a chance they can go fetch land into Blood Moon on turn 2, and I would get punished for not going for the Windswept Heath here, but, you know, I think we're already on a mull to 6 against what is likely a discard spell deck, so I think I'm happy to play the Colony Garden out now, and then we can just go for the Windswept Heath, grab a basic next turn. Okay, interesting, so we drew a Kami, so the fact they've not used, you know, any proactive mana here makes me think they probably have Or they probably don't have a Thoughtseize, which means if we go for Paradise Druid here, we're basically guaranteed to get Natural Order off next turn, assuming they don't draw a Thoughtseize for turn, which is a pretty big deal. And then the other really nice thing about getting Paradise Druid in play here is that if they have Blood Moon, we still have access to double green here, because, you know, we've got green off the Forest, green off the Paradise Druid, so we can still go for Natural Order, even if they go for Blood Moon here, which is pretty sick. Okay, they got Lalia, which can snowball the game pretty quickly. But thankfully, we can just go Natural Order into Atraxa here. If we draw Atraxa, then it doesn't really matter, because we can go Natural Order into Galta. Interesting. Okay, so we draw Flooded Strand, so I think we should probably just fetch a basic Plains here, right? And then we have access to the mana for Winota, especially if we hit it off the Atraxa here. So go Natural Order. And this is why I love Paradise Druid in these sorts of matchups. Just having Hexproof is so nice, especially with Natural Order. Then we can go for Atraxa, we can refuel here. Obviously, if the opponent has like a Shieldred's Edict, it's going to be kind of rough, but we do find the Winota, which is a pretty big deal. So only hit 3 card types, but that's not too bad, right? We get Winota Once Upon a Time, and then I think with 2 untapped lands here, we should probably just go for Colney Garden, right? Just gives us some extra utility. So now I feel pretty good about this spot, right? Managed to get Natural Order off, got an Atraxa in play. These gen lists don't typically run very many ways to kill Atraxa. I think the main ones I've seen in the past are stuff like Molten Collapse and Shieldred's Edict. If they attack with the Lalia here, then I don't think I should block, because I really want this Atraxa not only to start gaining life, you know, obviously keeping the 7/7 lifelinker in play is going to really help to race, but it also gives us a Winota trigger next turn, which is a pretty big deal. Okay, so they jostle. I guess they could bolt the Atraxa to get him for a Lalia attack, but I still feel pretty confident about this spot, right? Okay, so they do hit a land, which is obviously, you know, good for them, because it gives them... I don't think they've played a land for the turn yet, but if they don't have a way to kill this Atraxa, you know, if they... Oh, wow, okay, yeah, opponent just scoops up. I mean, I guess if they can't stop the Atraxa, we're guaranteed to start swinging and then get a Winota trigger immediately. So that felt pretty good. In these sorts of matchups, again, don't really need to sideboard, since I never bring in the Huntmaster Wishboard targets, and... you know, the actual sideboard cards we've got, Deafening Silence and Voice of Resurgence, just don't really do much in this matchup. You know, I'd much rather keep our proactive game plan here. And, you know, this is another matchup where, again, I have to assume they'll be on Blood Moon, especially post-sideboard, but having white and red as essentially just splash colours means that we can play around Blood Moon pretty effectively just by fetching basics pretty early on. And, you know, we are running 10 fetch lands, 3 basics, so we're pretty likely to draw them. And then we've also got Cameo of Bamboo Graves if we need to find our second forest. So, you know, Blood Moon is the main thing I'm worried about here. Although having said that, if they do have a lot of creature removal, that can also be tricky, because obviously the 2 central cards in this deck are Natural Order and Winota. And so if the opponent has a very removal heavy hand, they can potentially just take out all of our non-humans. But as we saw that last game, Paradise Druid in particular is a really good way of bypassing that, right? Especially with Natural Order. So overall, I've definitely felt like this matchup has been good from this side. So I really don't like mulliganing against Thoughtseize decks very often, but this hand just doesn't really do enough, and I really want the Atraxa in the deck, really. So I think I'm going to ship that one back. Have to keep this on a 6. I really don't ever want to go lower than a 6 against a Thoughtseize deck, but having Crater Hoof in hand is pretty rough here. I'd really like this to be like a piece of acceleration instead. Okay, we drew Forest off the top, so again, there's maybe an argument to going Flooded Strand to get a basic Plains here to play around Blood Moon, but that does also make the Deathrite Shaman a little bit more live. Okay, they don't have a fetch land, so we don't have to worry about it. And again, you know, we have a lot of live top decks here. If we draw Paradise Druid, then I really value having the Colony Garden in play on turn 1. Oh, okay, Cammy's a nice draw here. So now we can accelerate and get another non-human in play. And we also potentially get to fetch a basic Plains here, so if they do have Blood Moon this turn, it does shut us off Natural Order, but we can still cast Winota, which is pretty big. So I actively want the opponent to cast Blood Moon here. Okay, they don't kill either Kami or the token here, which is pretty big. Okay, they do draw Bowmasters, which can take out probably the Kami here. So if they have Bowmasters into another piece of removal, we could be in trouble, but... okay, there's the Blood Moon, so I'm actually very happy to see that, which is kind of surprising, but... you know, with this Winota in hand, they don't kill the Kami or the token, which then gives us 2 Winota triggers. They could obviously use the Deathrite Shaman into Fatal Push or Lightning Bolt if they have that to take out one of our creatures. Well, they attack with the Shaman. Okay, so I'm actually pretty happy about this. Now we get to cast Winota. Attack, get 2 triggers here. Okay, get 1 agent, which is huge. Then we can steal... I think steal the Deathrite Shaman, because that's another way to trigger Winota, and another way for us to produce green mana for Natural Order as well. But yeah, I feel like we should be good now, right? The only way they could even get a foothold back in this game would be Brotherhood's End, and we've got Boromir to protect our board anyway, so I think we should just be good here, right? I can't really think of anything that would save them. Yeah, sweet, so we got there, nice. Okay, so we're going second here. And I can't keep this hand. Way too much top end. This hand I am pretty happy to keep though, but we do need some help off this Once Upon a Time. So just debating here whether I want to put back the Grazer or the Kami. I think I'd rather lead on Grazer on turn 1 so it's not vulnerable to Orcish Bowmasters. So really hoping... Oh, I was going to say really hoping to hit a Huntmaster or a Winota off the Once Upon a Time. But now we've drawn Huntmaster, we're basically just looking for any land here, I think. Just so that we can make consistent use of the ramp. Wow, opponent shocks into their Spell Pierce. That's actually pretty annoying because now we need to find a land off the top or this Grazer doesn't actually work as ramp. So I'm going to grab a basic here just because I want to play around Blood Moon. You know, the opponent could still potentially be playing Blood Moon. Maybe I'm supposed to get a jewel there, but I don't think it really matters, right? It would only really matter if we just draw exclusively green sources and then top deck a Winota. Or use this Huntmaster to get a Winota. Okay, so drawing a land is obviously better than not drawing a land here, but I would love to have, loved it to be a tap land. That's pretty unfortunate because Lush Portico is the only... I guess actually Colney Garden would have also put us in the same spot there. So they bolt the Grazer, so opponent has definitely slowed this draw down quite a lot because even if we use Huntmaster now, we won't have a non-human in place straight away. I guess we could go... Huntmaster Huntmaster grab Winota, replace the Boromir with Winota, and then cast Kami, and then have Kami as a non-human, but that's still fairly easy for the opponent to disrupt. If they just have like a lightning bolt, they can take out the Kami. If they get Delirium Online and they've got Unholy Heat, they could take out the Winota. But with our current hand, I think that's the best setup. And I do think keeping Temple Garden on top is important because then, future top decks like Natural Order are live. Okay, so not sure exactly what the opponent's on. Sleight of Hand makes me think they could be on Phoenix, potentially. But we'll have to see. So yeah, I think the line I'm going to take here is Huntmaster, grab Winota, and then just follow up with a Kami to get a non-human in play. There are, some other considerations, like if we think we're up against the counterspell deck, we could maybe grab Voice of Resurgence. If we are worried about Phoenix specifically, we could grab Remorseful Cleric, and also Remorseful Cleric is good at keeping Delirium off, so that's another consideration here. I'm also a little bit worried that they could be on Show and Tell. Actually, I don't know if they would be on Show and Tell from what we've seen so far. Like, it's mainly just the Brainstorm and the Sleight of Hand that makes me think that. Wow, they stifle the Huntmaster. I still think I'm going to run out the Kami here because it makes both Winota and Natural Order much better top decks. So they're getting for 3 with the Channeler. We are definitely losing the race at the moment, but... if they are running a pretty reactive deck, there's a chance that we can start getting in with the Huntmaster. And then we've also got the Boromir as additional pressure as well that can also protect the rest of our creatures. But again, if we are against Phoenix... Actually, I don't know if we are against Phoenix because I feel like they would have used their cantrips and stuff pre-combat. Again, could just be a sequencing error from the opponent, but... I feel like if they were on Phoenix, they probably would be using their spells more proactively. Okay, second Chandler is definitely an issue here. Oh, sick. Okay, Natural Order off the top. I mean, they could very well have Spell Pierce, but we are behind enough at this point where I think I just got to jam it. I might attack first, though, just to see if they'll take the trade. Actually, hold on. That's maybe a mistake, because if they do take the trade and then bolt the Kami, we can't actually use the natural order. So I think I'm supposed to natural order first here, actually. That was probably a mistake on my part. I was also kind of hoping that attacking with the Huntmaster would bait out a removal spell on the Huntmaster. Oh, wow, they stifle the attracts. Okay, so we need to be very wary of stifle in post-sideboard games when I'm, playing my fetch lands. So here it's interesting if we want to block with the Atraxa or not. I think we probably do, to be honest, because we don't have a Winota, so it's not imperative that we attack with the Atraxa, and we only really get punished if they have exactly Unholy Heat here. But maybe we're supposed to let it through. So if we do let the damage through, we go down to 5, we're dead to 2 bolts, but we've already seen 2 bolts so far, I think. Okay, so they cut themselves off Delirium, which might force them to not attack. But I think they probably do want Delirium so that future Unholy Heats are live. So it looks like they're running pretty high numbers of Stifle. I think I will block here, right? Force them to have the Unholy Heat. If they have it, they have it. We still gain 7 and... Okay, they do have it. Yeah, I mean, maybe with 2 bolts gone already, I'm supposed to let the damage through here, but I don't know. It's hard to say, because if they find another bolt off the top, they can just kill the Atraxa with Unholy Heat into bolt, which is pretty rough for us. And now gaining that 7 life and taking the Channeler off the board, I actually feel we're in a decent position to be able to race here. So I think I'm going to run out the second Huntmaster here. And then maybe get a Winota here. Maybe... I mean, there's not too many other generically powerful cards that we've got access to in the wish board. We could potentially get a Yasharn if we wanted to keep, finding more lands. But I think it's probably best to just get a Winota here. Just in case we draw more non-humans off the top. Could also go for Remorseful Cleric. Which I think when we're ahead at this point I might do. Because they are on Treasure Cruise and they have Delirium as well. I think I will go for the Remorseful Cleric because Winota is only really good if we draw non-humans, and getting a Remorseful Cleric now also makes future Winota draws good. But it does apply less pressure as well, right? If we grab Winota, we get another 4/4 in play which can clock the opponent. So I think it's pretty close. There's good arguments for both plays, I think. But I don't mind Remorseful Cleric because it does cut off a decent amount of their synergies. Okay, they found a bolt, so I'm very happy that I did block with the Atraxa, because if I'd waited, they'd have just been able to Unholy Heat and bolt. Okay, we found a Winota off the top, so paid off for getting the Remorseful Cleric here. Although having said that, there's a chance they're just going to kill this straight away anyway, right? If they have an Unholy Heat, they might just want to use this now, because we're cutting them off Delirium otherwise. It's also kind of difficult, with a card like Remorseful Cleric to try and play around Treasure Cruise as well, right? Because it's very difficult to preemptively use the Cleric. Although maybe we should use it here, cut them off Delirium and Treasure Cruise, but, with a Winota in hand, I think we're much better off just keeping it in play as a non-human, because if they kill the Huntmaster, getting another Winota trigger here would be huge if they also play another creature. Okay, they ship it back. So now we can just jam Winota. Wow, okay, it doesn't look like they have anything. We get a Winota trigger and attack him with 2 lethal attackers. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this is going to be game. We can also steal the Channeler here. So yeah, we got there, nice. So I am a little, those stifles are kind of spooky, right? Really don't want to get my early fetches stifled, but I think I'm going to bring in Voice of Resurgence because of the Spell Pierces here. And I'm going to cut Paradise Druids. And because I just feel like their sort of deck looks like a tempo deck more than anything else. Right, we didn't see Phoenix. They didn't really play in a manner where it looked like they had Phoenix. Still not sure what the best card to cut is. I usually cut Galta against Show and Tell. I think Boromir is potentially the better cut here though, because it does slightly lower our Winota hits, but I just feel like Boromir is probably the least impactful card in this sort of matchup. The thing is with Galta is that obviously it's only a one-off, but it's a tutor target for natural order, and so I think it's more likely we're more likely to miss the one-off Galta than we are the third Boromir, if that makes sense. Again, it's hard to say whether Voice of Resurgence is the correct sideboard plan against this deck, because I don't know how many counterspells the opponent has. If they're just on Spell Pierce, then I'm not really sure that Voice of Resurgence is needed, but if they bring in stuff like Aether Gust, Counterspell, Change the Equation, then I definitely do want it. Especially because like Counterspell decks can be tricky because, you know, as I said, the two main game plans in this deck are Natural Order and Winota, which are both 4-mana sorcery speed cards. So if the opponent does have counterspells for those, it does slow down your ability to apply pressure. And especially if the opponent's playing a tempo deck, they pair those sorts of counterspells with a fast clock as well, and then it becomes very difficult to race. Especially as we saw there, you know, we don't have very many ways to stop flyers. So if they get Dragon's Rage Channeler, Delirium Online early, and then back that up with counterspells for our Natural Order and Winota, it's going to be tricky to win. Okay, this hand looks pretty good though. We've got Temur on ramp, we've got a Colony Garden off that Kami. Wow, they're running Delver. Okay. So yeah, they are full on tempo. So I am kind of glad I brought in the Voice of Resurgences here, because their counterspells hitting our key stuff is going to be an issue, I think. Oh, well, the upkeep Brainstorm with Delver. I've still not been massively impressed with Delver, but, you know, if you can consistently get a spell on top with Brainstorm and flip it, it is pretty sick. So here we're really hoping to find a land off the top. Because even if we use Huntmaster to find a Skyclave Cleric, that's a tap land. So, you know, we really want to either be getting a turn 3 Winota or a turn 3 Natural Order down here. And we obviously need the an untapped 4th land to be able to do that. Okay, there's a Channeler as well. Okay, perfect. There's the land. That's exactly what I want to see. Oh, no, wait, that's a mistake. Oh, I should have played the Windswept Heath because they have Stifle. I really hope that doesn't come back to bite me here. So I'm definitely going to exile this Boromir and grab a Winota here. I think. Yeah, grab a Winota. I'm happy to attack with the Kami here, I think. Actually, yeah, I'm happy. Like, I'll take that trade with the Channeler. Even though it would potentially deny us a Winota trigger, getting that Channeler off the board would be very big. But yeah, I really should have used the Windswept Heath to grab a red fetch land while they were tapped out. Really hoping that doesn't come back to bite me here. I mean, I guess that's the thing, right? Stifle isn't that common, so I'm still not that used to playing against it. But yeah, I should have remembered that. So they do on Sleight of Hand. I'll be very happy if they end up tapping out here. You know, there's a chance they do to try and get Delirium online. I mean, there's also a chance that maybe they cut Stifle, although it is good against Huntmaster, and it did deny us an Atraxa trigger last game, and it's just generally good against fetch lands. But yeah, I don't know. I'm typically not a big fan of Stifle in decks unless you've got a good way to use it proactively as well. Like, you know, if you're running Uro, like some of the Aspiring Spike decks where you can stifle your own Uro trigger, that's a really nice pairing for it. But as far as I can tell, it looks like the opponent's just using it as a way to try and cut, you know, fetch lands off, as well as occasionally sniping an activated ability, which I don't really feel is high enough impact personally. But, you know, if it gets us here with this Windswept Heath, it could end up winning them the game. So, but that's, you know, more from a mistake of mine than anything else, I think. So they got Bauble as well. I believe that will give them Delirium. So probably incentivized to go for Natural Order instead of Winota here so that we can get Atraxa down. But we'll see what we draw for the turn. And we'll obviously see if we get Stifled first or not. The other awkward thing... Oh, wait. Hold on. We've got Crater Hoof here. So could we go for Galta for the win? I don't know whether on a shock here either. Going down to 6 is so risky when they have 6 power in play. So I think I'm going to go for the Natural Order here. Go for the Galta. Oh no, do they have Spell Pierce? Yeah, they do, okay. So we're not dead here unless they have a Bolt, but we also don't have a red source in play. And so I don't see how we win this now, because all of our red sources are shock lands. So there's no way that we can cast Winota without dying next turn. Oh, they've got Bolt anyway. Okay, so go to game 3. So I did definitely misplay with the land sequencing there. I'm not sure if I could have done anything differently, though, honestly. You know, obviously them having the spell pierce for the natural order there was the big deciding factor in that game. If they don't have it, we can get Gal to cheat, Crater Hoof, Winota, Huntmaster in play and just buff our whole board and attack for a huge amount. But I don't know, I'll have to watch that one back and see if there was a slightly better line. Definitely let me know in the comments as well if you think there was something differently I could have done that game. But yeah, tempo decks can be a little bit dicey sometimes, but on the play, things should be a lot better, hopefully. And that was quite a close game. Again, it just came down to whether they had the counterspell for the natural order there. And, you know, especially with Voice of Resurgence as well, we haven't drawn that. But that's a really nice one because obviously that's great against counterspells, but also just very good at their instant speed removal as well. At shutting off their instant speed removal. So definitely happy to keep this hand. And then we'll put back the Agent of Treachery here. So going to be fetching on turn 1 before they have access to Stifle. I mean, we'll once upon a time first to see what we hit, but I think we just want to get lands here. We just want to make sure that we have our 4th land for the natural order if we can afford to, or if we can find it. Okay, so definitely going to get the Windswept Teeth here. And then I don't know whether I want to play around Blood Moon or not. I think I can afford to here, right? We only really get punished by this if we draw exactly Winota and we don't find another fetch land or a red source somehow. Because I presume we're going to use this Windswept Teeth to find a Temple Garden. And then if we don't draw land, then I could definitely see just channeling the Kami here. So we could obviously cast the Boromir, but then we really don't have a good play next turn if we don't draw the 4th land here. So I think I'm just going to ship it back. Then at the end of the opponent's turn, crack the fetch. Again, they could have Stifle here, which would be kind of rough. I could have cracked the fetch then, actually. That was probably a misplay. But I feel like... Okay, I was going to say, I feel like if they fetch an untapped land, they have a cantrip. And if they fetch a tap land, we can just crack in response. But yeah, I should have cracked in response to their fetch land. Thankfully, it didn't end up mattering. So I think here, now we've drawn the Boromir, we'll get a Plains, and then we can just ship it back. We could have also channeled the Kami there, because them stifling the Kami is a little bit awkward, but yeah, maybe that was the slightly safer line. But I'm thinking it's not the end of the world if they stifle a Kami, because we can still just untap and cast Boromir, but getting the 4th land is going to be pretty important. So I think I was also supposed to channel the Kami before they untap. See if they do have the Stifle for it. Okay. So I was thinking about snowballing or like slow rolling these natural orders. Now we've drawn a second one, I was kind of tempted to just jam it. It's tricky to say. Like, I think I'm just going to cast the Boromir here and ship it back. Because them keeping a mana open there and not committing early on is a pretty... I'm pretty certain that they'll have a Spell Pierce here. And if we do draw another land, we can potentially just wait until we have 6 mana and just, play around the Spell Pierce potentially. So definitely made a couple of hiccups this game in terms of playing around Stifle, but I'll hopefully remember this in future games if the opponent has Stifle in their deck and play around it a bit better. So opponent's digging, no creatures in play. I'm very happy to see that. Again, if they ship it back, then I might just wait until we play the 6th land. Yeah, okay, so we do find the 6th land, which is pretty huge. Get to attacking with the Boromir. And it's like, I'm almost 100% they have a Spell Pierce now, so I'm just going to pass it back. Crack this fetch. Probably have to grab a red source rather than the Portico, unfortunately. But then we can just go for the natural order next turn and then, force them to have double Spell Pierce. I will maybe regret this if they have actual counterspell, but we haven't seen that yet. And they would obviously need to constantly hold open more mana in order to do that. Okay, so the iteration, but they played a land first. So I think that was probably a sequencing mistake by the opponent there. They cracked the Flooded Strand. So again, very happy to not see any creatures so far, because it's really let me like not have to jam stuff into natural order. And now I'm very happy to see the DRC. Boromir counters the Warble, which is a nice interaction. But yeah, now I'm basically guaranteed to get this natural order off, because if they have Stifle for the fetch land, they're tapped out. And if they have Spell Pierce, we can pay for it. Like, they need like Miscast or something. So I'm pretty sure we're getting to resolve the natural order here. And then definitely going to grab a red source. Might as well grab the Sacred Foundry, because we've only got one white source. And then we can natural order here. And I think Craterhoof is lethal. Right? Hold on, let me work this out. So we've got 3 creatures, so that's an extra 9 power, plus 5, plus 2. Yeah, that should be lethal, right? I think. Let me think. 8, 9, 17, minus 3. Yeah. So it looks like we got there. Nice.